Hello everyone and welcome back to English Made for You. Today we've got a grammar lesson that will clear up a common confusion for English learners. Have you ever wondered why we say, I enjoy swimming, but not, I enjoy to swim? Or why, I decided to leave is correct, but I decided leaving sounds odd? It all comes down to gerunds and infinitives. This might seem a little tricky, but don't worry. By the end of this lesson, you'll have a clear understanding of when to use gerunds and when to use infinitives. Plus, I'll give you plenty of examples to make things easy. So let's get cracking. First of all, what the bloody hell is a gerund? Not very complicated. A gerund is simply a verb that ends in ing, but functions as a noun. For example, we take the verb run and add ing. We get running. In this case, the gerund running refers to the action or activity of running. The word running now represents the activity itself. Let's see it in a sentence. Running keeps me healthy. Here, running, which is an activity, is the subject of the sentence. We could replace it with another noun, like exercise, and the subject would still make sense. Exercise keeps me healthy. A very important thing to remember is that not every verb ending in ing is a gerund. For example, consider the present continuous. She is singing a song. Here, singing is a verb, part of the present continuous. Singing is the present participle in this example, not a gerund. I am talking to you. They are cleaning the house. Verbs, not gerunds. So what's the key difference to spot gerunds? Gerunds function as nouns, not verbs. Do not forget that. She enjoys singing. Here, singing is a noun, a gerund. In this example, singing is the object of the sentence. Right, for now, that's all you need to know about gerunds. Let's have a quick look at infinitives. And what is an infinitive? An infinitive is just the base form of a verb with to in front of it. For example, we take the base form leave and we add to. We get to leave, to travel, to work. In a sentence we have, she decided to leave early. They plan to visit London. Quite simple, isn't it? Right, now you're all set. We've covered the basics of gerunds and infinitives, so let's move on and see how we use each one. First, let's see how we use them starting a sentence. In English, the basic form of a sentence is subject, verb, and object. It's very common to start a sentence using the gerund as subject. Cleaning is hard work. Here, cleaning is the subject of the verb is. Traveling broadens the mind. Broaden is a verb that means to make someone understand more, to know more about places, ideas, subjects. We can also start the sentence with a noun phrase. For example, walking to work helped me with my back problem. Here, walking to work is our subject. 3 words to form the subject. This is what we call a noun phrase. More than one word forming a subject. Playing the guitar makes me happy. Playing the guitar is our subject. It's very common to start the sentence with the gerund as the subject or part of the subject. We can replace the noun phrases and the sentences would still work. For example, exercise helped me with my back problem. Music makes me happy. Take a look at this example again. Cleaning is hard work. Cleaning is our subject. But we can also say, cleaning the house is hard work. Now, cleaning the house is our subject. Now let's take a look at infinitives. We can also start sentences with infinitives. For example, to learn a new language takes time. However, Starting a sentence like this, using the infinitive as part of the subject, sounds quite formal, sometimes even poetic, like Shakespeare. To be or not to be? That's the question. To become a doctor has always been her dream. To learn English is my only goal this year. It may sound a bit too formal, but not wrong. We usually prefer the gerund in everyday speech. Becoming a doctor has always been her dream. Learning English is my only goal this year. However, we can use the infinitive to start a sentence if we are giving directions, instructions, showing purpose, or saying why we are doing something. To check your voicemail, press 1. To get to the city center, take the number 11 bus. To win the race, you'll have to start training every day. To make employees feel safer, the company installed new security cameras. We use the infinitive at the start of a sentence, meaning in order to. In other words, it shows the purpose of an action. In order to check your voicemail, press 1. Bear in mind that in order to is quite formal, not very common in spoken English. Right, now let's see how to use gerunds and infinitives as objects of verbs. And we're going to start by looking at where we can use both forms of the verbs with no difference in meaning. In other words, some verbs can be followed by either a gerund or an infinitive with no change in meaning. And the most common ones are like, love, hate, can't stand, start, continue, and prefer. She started reading a new book. She started to read a new book. I can't stand waiting in long queues. I can't stand to wait in long queues. He loves exploring new cities. He loves to explore new cities. They prefer staying in small hotels. They prefer to stay in small hotels. She hates being interrupted while working. She hates to be interrupted while working. They continued walking despite the rain. They continued to walk despite the rain. All of these are fine. Both sentences are correct. These verbs are great because it doesn't really matter if we use a gerund or an infinitive. They will work the same way. However, as you can imagine, not every verb works like this. Some verbs can only be used with a gerund, and some verbs can only be used with an infinitive. So, what verbs do we use with a gerund? Here are 5 common ones: enjoy, consider, deny, imagine, and suggest. These verbs only take a gerund, so they are always followed by a gerund. He enjoys playing football. They suggested going to the park. She denied stealing the money. I can't imagine living in a cold country. We considered moving to Spain. It takes some practice to learn how they work. Another grammar rule for gerunds is that if a verb comes after a preposition, we use the gerund. At, I'm good at drawing. About, she's excited about traveling. Without, they left without saying goodbye. And just as some verbs only take a gerund, others only take an infinitive, so they can only be followed by an infinitive. So here are 5 common ones: demand, agree, manage, plan, and want. I decided to move abroad. She agreed to help. She wanted to come up on my lap right now, honestly, in the middle of the video. Nina. And as you can expect, there's a grammar rule for infinitives here as well. If a verb comes after an adjective, then we use the infinitive. Words like difficult, happy, important. It's difficult to understand grammar sometimes. I was happy to help. It's important to practice every day to learn gerunds and infinitives. Great, we've covered how to use gerunds and infinitives with the same meaning, how to only use gerunds, and how to only use infinitives. But now, as crazy as you might think it is, some verbs can take both a gerund and an infinitive, but the meaning changes. Take a look at these. First one, I stopped smoking. Second, I stopped to smoke. In the first one, it means I quit smoking. I don't smoke anymore. And in the second, it means I paused what I was doing to have a cigarette. See the big difference? It can be a bit tricky. Don't worry too much, but be aware of those. You will find some of them around. Right, we're coming to the end of the lesson, but before we leave, there's a small trick that may help you to recognize when to use a gerund or an infinitive. It doesn't work every time, but it does help. Basically, if the first action of the sentence leads to a second action, then you use the infinitive. He is planning to travel to London. First he plans, second he travels. But if the first action is happening at the same time as the second action, then you use the gerund. He enjoys traveling. Enjoy and traveling happen at the same time. That's all for today's lesson. I hope you found it useful. Gerunds and infinitives can be tricky, but with practice you'll start to recognize the patterns more easily. And if you'd like to keep learning with me, make sure to subscribe to my channel, English Made for You. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Cheers!